So the other day, my best friend Chai invited me to a basketball game. He plays basketball. He's played basketball his entire life. And I wasn't expecting much, honestly. We're both approaching the ripe old age of 40. We have bad knees. So I kind of expected to sit there by the sidelines watching a very bad game. But I was impressed. I saw Chai dribbling up and down that court, knocking down layup after layup after layup. After the game, which he won, I asked him, "Hey, Chai, I noticed you never shoot the ball, but you always do layups." And he said, "Yeah, it's kind of like a really basic skill. It's one that I was taught a long time ago, and I was never really good at the fancy stuff, so I just kind of stick to the basics." Now, for those of you who don't know what a layup is, that's what you're looking at in front of you. A layup is the most basic skill in basketball because it has the highest chance of success. It's a foundational skill, but if you've watched any college games or if you've watched even some professional ones, during the time it matters the most, the crucial minutes of the game, a layup is often missed. Why? Why would a foundational skill be missed? And the simple answer to that is because it's such a basic skill, we don't practice it. In the game of basketball, the foundational skill that is a layup is a cornerstone to success. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, in the game that is your professional career, I would argue that communication is a foundational skill that's a cornerstone to your success. Today, I'm going to talk to you about why Toastmasters builds foundational communication skills and helps you practice those skills on a daily basis. Now, just like a layup has three parts, right? A layup is you drive forward, you get your knee up, and you let the ball go at the tips of your fingers. Foundational communication skills in Toastmasters has three parts: prepared speaking, impromptu speaking, and giving feedback. Now, this just so happens to align with the three parts of a Toastmasters meeting wherever you go. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about what they are, although it's pretty apparent what they are from just reading it, but more importantly, why it's so important to you as a professional. Let's take a look. We all know what prepared speaking is. We've seen it done a million times. Either you get in front of a lectern, you have a script, you know exactly what you're going to say, and you rehearsed. Why is that important? Let me give you a couple of tidbits. First, confidence. When else do you get to practice your delivery, your voice, the words you choose, how you say something? You get confidence through repetition. And confidence comes from practicing something over and over again until you know you can do it exactly the way you want. That's why prepared speaking is important. Next, cohesion. Have you ever had someone walk into your office and they just start talking about a subject and you're like, whoa, 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 let's back up? That person didn't have an intro. They didn't have a cohesive way to connect things together. By practicing prepared speaking, you're gaining an understanding of what it means to have an intro, what it means to have a good body and a closing, not just in prepared speeches, but in any kind of talk. Finally, clarity. A few weeks ago, I went to the movie theaters wearing a mask. I was the only one, and I watched a movie called Tenet. That movie was 2 hours and 45 minutes in length. When you have something that's 2 hours and 45 minutes in length, it's not clear. It's extremely complicated. And what it speaks to is someone who is unwilling to cut their own work. When you practice speaking on a daily basis, especially prepared speaking, you're fitting into a time slot. And because of that, you're practicing the fine art of being your own editor. You're cutting out things that are unnecessary for the audience and giving a clear and concise message. Those are the three benefits of practicing prepared speaking. Now we move on to the second technique, impromptu speaking. Impromptu speaking is a portion of table topics, is a portion of Toastmasters called table topics. It is when you don't know what you're going to say. You get a question you might know the answer to, you might not. But what it forces you to do is to use all the techniques you learned doing prepared speeches and apply them to when you, A, don't know the subject, and B, are under a time crunch. If I'm following the basketball analogy, think of it as a melee. It's like playing a game of basketball where it doesn't really matter who wins or loses, but you're playing and you're practicing all those skills under the pressure of time and competition. Impromptu speaking is one of the most important skills you can practice because it takes everything you've practiced and puts it into action. Finally, the last portion of any Toastmasters meeting is feedback. Now, feedback, I use that term because guess what? It happens in every area of our life. Whether you're talking to a neighbor across a fence, whether you're talking to a friend or a spouse, whether you're talking to a coworker, delivering feedback is not something that's done without practice. To give feedback in Toastmasters is about evaluation, and the technique that you use is always the same, whether you talk to your boss or you talk to a peer. Evaluation techniques, which is sandwiching good and positive things with something that can improve, is a very difficult skill to learn, and it's only one you get when you practice it over and over again until it's artful. At Toastmasters, these are the 3 portions of a meeting: prepared speaking, impromptu speaking, and feedback. But these are also the techniques to foundational communication skills. It's what we practice over and over and over because it is something that can lead to the success of our career. Now, when I talked to Chai at that basketball game and he told me that he had practiced a layup over and over again, he didn't sound very excited. And that's partly because practicing something like this isn't always exciting. I will add that practicing this doesn't always have to be physical, right? This is a virtual world we live in now, and all of these things can still be practiced virtually, and they still come hand in hand with delivering them physically. So when you take a look at your professional career, when you take a look at the thing that's missing, you probably realize, hey, maybe I'm already a pretty good communicator. But just like that layup, if you don't practice that foundational skill, you won't have it when the chips are down. Mr. Toastmaster.